Welcome, acolytes. Apparently, it's tough to beat the Emperor of Mankind in 40k. Yes, I am talking about that. Now why? Well, I am a fan of 40k. Or at least for the most part. You know what's happening, I know what's happening. There is a lot of shit going on, but let's just do the thing. And Green Dove, don't know the guy, just got it in my recommended, so just gonna see what he has to say about this and what his arguments are, and maybe it's just a fun little video, so that also would be nice. So let's just see.
And the Emperor of Mankind is no exception to this rule. You may think it's great to be a 12-foot tall space Jesus, but even he's not immune to the grim darkness of the far future.
I mean, of course not. He is very powerful. He's literally sitting on a throne as a skeleton, basically devoid of any life, and allows people to actually warp travel. And it's only a matter of time when he actually will dissolve completely. And then we're fucked, so yeah.
Even though the Emperor is the main character, he is constantly dealing with bullshit that would make a normal person seek a therapist. Big E literally had to babysit an entire civilization to stop them from killing themselves. His baby mama called Child Protection Services and had his sons taken away. And he knew about humanity's eventual fall to chaos, but couldn't tell anyone because it'd make it worse. To top it all off, when he finally got his superhuman sons back...
Useless shit. Yeah, those... I don't remember the names of those, but yet this is every single one. Malekith? No. Magnus. I forgot the dark one, the Batman thing. Okay, it's relevant.
Most of them were fucking useless. Some even ended up betraying him, and his favorite of the bunch literally put him in a coma. To get an idea of how rough his life was, we have to start from the beginning. Big E's birth was relatively normal, aside from the fact that his creation was planned by some crazy shamans high on crystal meth. You see, there were some powerful shamans who were aware of the existence of the warp and the evil gods that dwell within it. They figured they'd need someone to fight the chaos deities, so 1,000 of them committed suicide and pulled their souls together to create Space Jesus.
Why those look like sperms? Gigantic sperms. Oh, damn it, mate. Genius.
AKA the Emperor. And so Big E was born. His parents were regular-ass humans that were part of the first tribes in modern-day Turkey. Growing up, he was pretty normal, until one day his father was murdered. At the funeral, the Emperor unlocks the Jedi Mind Force and finds out his uncle was the culprit. Using these same powers, he stops his uncle's heart with his mind. After that, he knows he's special and different. He realizes that these violent apes require a leader to lead them to the promised land. So he nominates himself and starts gathering other immortal beings known as perpetuals.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way, he meets his future baby mama, Erda, and his best friend for life, Malkador. The Emperor was pretty active in ancient history, fighting or leading in many wars. Eventually, he encounters the Void Dragon, which is...
I am actually, because I don't remember this part, if the Emperor actually had children. This would be quite interesting. And I don't mean his cloned sons. I mean literally children that he actually effed a woman and she gave birth to children.
Is a piece of a literal alien god. Nobody knows why the dragon was on Terra, but legend has it the Emperor fought it somewhere in modern-day Libya. He managed to defeat it, but could not kill it. At some point, he travels to Mars and imprisons the Void Dragon under the planet. Eventually, he just disappears off the face of the Earth. During his vacation, he takes one too many acid trips and foresees humanity's destruction and the existence of the warp and chaos gods. But he couldn't tell anyone. You see, humans are greedy and lustful bastards. Imagine if you told humanity that there are extra-dimensional beings that can bless you with incredible power and immortality if you join them. You can bet your ass there will be some idiots that sign up for it.
That's correct. But you also... I mean, I'm gonna say this, yes, there would be some that actually do that. But in the end of the day, you also have to tell them the consequences, especially from the Dinargor. Because I cannot imagine that a logically thinking person that actually likes life as it is would want to be a giant freaking wounds and pestilence and sickness infested body that actually thrives, gets some joy out of being dead. A last demon? Yeah, it's not the dead lust that you think, like extreme lust, like cutting limbs off, pressing things. It's just the Dark Elder shit. That's it. Well, that's it. It's, I mean, you mute it into an ugly fuck that actually looks like a freaking orc ball sack, just in different colors. Corn, forever fighting, forever feeling pain, forever bloodlust where you cannot control yourself. You're just not yourself again. So, yeah, sorry. That's, nah.
This is the first reason it sucked to be Big E. He shouldered this entire burden because if he let this secret slip, most of humanity would turn against their brethren. He could only fight behind closed doors. Some might say he was an asshole for not letting them know, but his choice was the lesser of two evils. Anyway, Big E continues his life, taking different names throughout history. Once he was known as Alexander the Great, another time he was Marilyn Monroe, he was even some guy named Elon Musk once. Then these idiotic monkeys start thriving and reach a point of critical mass. This was known as the Age of Technology, where humans discovered warp travel, allowing them to colonize space. Humans also start evolving and developed psychic abilities.
Nice.
Just a bit before the discovery of warp travel, the Emperor left Earth on an economy-class ticket to the planet Molech. There, he discovered an entryway into the realm of chaos. Big E proceeded to have a board meeting with the four gods, and they struck up a deal. They would buff him to deity-like status and give him the knowledge to create his super sons, the Primarchs. In return, Big E would have to spread chaos to humanity like it was COVID. Obviously, the Emperor never held up his end of the bargain. Once he got what he wanted, he told the Chaos Gods to piss off. Meanwhile, on Terra, the stupid apes fuck up again. The evolved X-Men were indirectly inviting demonic incursions each time they used their psychic powers and corrupting entire planets. And then, the beloved AI that humans developed went full Skynet, making ChatGPT turn against humanity and vaporizing billions in what was known as the Cybernetic Revolt.
Oh.
This is the second reason it sucked to be the Emperor. He was now stronger than ever after visiting Molech, but he was still helpless and couldn't assist humanity. He was most likely still on his way back from his trip. And yeah, he could see the future, but not really in the way you think. It's more like he could see 100 different futures, with 100 different paths to reach it. How you reach it, and which future it is, would be impossible to determine. There's no way Big E could have predicted the Age of Strife. Regardless of all this, humanity still eventually did win, but at a huge cost. You see, what was left of civilization on Terra was just apocalyptic scraps of a fallen empire, and the surviving human colonies in deep space were weakened and isolated from Terra, so they were prime targets for Xenos or demons. This is where the Emperor could finally be Space Jesus. He revealed himself as the savior of humanity, and with his huge army of Thunder Warriors that he developed through his eugenics program, he waged war to unify the fragmented tribes of Terra.
Oh, the Thunder Warriors. Oh, he did them so dirty at the end. And by the way, yes, that demons and such, that everything happened after he actually betrayed the Chaos Gods. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I am actually surprised that every Chaos God didn't like it. I would at least think that it set would be for it, because he is the bringer of change, and this was a change he didn't expect. So I would actually think that he would appreciate this. But hey, I might be wrong.
But this was just the beginning. He knew he needed to reconquer all the lost worlds to have a united front against future enemies. This project would be called the Great Crusade. And to accomplish this goal, his mentally unstable Thunder Warriors weren't going to cut it. So, the Emperor needed a contingency plan. After mixing DNA with his baby mama, Erda, they ended up creating 20 sons in his image. They were called the Primarchs, and would eventually grow up to be powerful generals that would lead his armies. But, as in all great cosmic dramas, co-parenting proved to be a nightmare.
Oh, okay, he didn't actually mention it because the Thunder Warriors at some point, because they were such an unstable, he actually killed them off at some point just so they don't do way more damage than they did. Maybe I'm also a bit too early on it.
See, the Emperor decided Erda was no longer needed, so he divorced her from the family tree. Furious at his plans to turn their sons into war machines for galactic conquest, Erda took drastic action. She summoned a warp vortex to yeet the Primarchs across the galaxy in a last-ditch effort to save them, then disappeared without a trace. Well, fuck. There goes Plan A. This is the third reason it sucked to be the Emperor. The women he trusted most in the world betrayed him, and
What do you mean? In this case, in this effing case, he betrayed her first. It's... okay, yeah.
he literally lost 20 of his sons to the depths of deep, dark space. All his life, he wanted a family, and now all he had left was his ashy and wrinkly best friend. Luckily, there was a plan B. He still had genetic material from his Primarchs, so Big E used that to create the warriors known as the Space Marines. The issue was the Emperor still had the Thunder Warriors.
Oh,
now,
he mentioned
you obviously
that.
can't have the old employees mixing with the new hires, so the Emperor did what any other great CEO would. He laid them off. But instead of collecting unemployment benefits, the Thunder Warriors were buried 6 foot underground.
Yep.
Anyway, with his new super soldiers, Big E hops on a ship and goes on a great crusade. His goal was to claim back every human world, from pretenders or aliens. It was essentially a space genocide, forcing every human colony to bend the knee and convert to the imperial truth or face annihilation. Along the way, he rediscovers his lost Primarchs. He always knew his sons were alive somewhere because he could hear them faintly through the warp. Of the 20 sons the Emperor handcrafted, 2 were straight up dead. As for the rest, oh, they were a work in progress. Kurz, he was a walking PSA for
Kurz,
psychological
yes.
counseling. He was a schizophrenic sadist who thought murdering entire populations counted as art therapy.
Yep, and basically the Batman of this universe. A hardcore freaking Batman. I loved Curse was such a good story with him. That he just burrowed himself burrowed himself off the earth and then just never met any kind of real love, and he started to consume everything, including human beings, just to survive. Damn, hardcore.
Magnus, he was arrogant and wouldn't shut the fuck up about how he did nothing wrong.
Magnus
Fulgrim
also.
was so in love with himself, I'm surprised he didn't marry a mirror. Lorgar was a religious nut. Perturabo was the galaxy's grumpiest goth with an inferiority complex. Meanwhile, Mortarion and Angron were so consumed by daddy issues that forgiving anyone, including themselves, was a concept more alien than a Terranid invasion. And then there's Horus, who decided ambition was a personality trait and ran with it. The Lion? He was too prideful, moody, and unforgiving. Ferris? Poor guy couldn't quite keep a good head on his shoulders. The Khan was indecisive, had commitment issues, and allergic to any kind of group chat. Vulcan was so self-sacrificing, it's a miracle he didn't build a campfire and jump into it for fun. Dorn? A stubborn old bastard that would never think outside the box. Russ? Simultaneously the most obedient golden retriever and the most impulsive bull. Sanguinius was too sensitive for this world. And Gilliman? So annoyingly modest. You'd swear he's running a PR campaign called I'm Just a Chill Guy. And finally, Alfarius and Corax. Good luck finding them. One's hiding, and the other's so emo he disappeared into his own shadow. This was the 4th reason it absolutely sucked to be the Emperor. He had kids, but they were dysfunctional. And the best part was Big E knew. He knew these kids were disasters waiting to happen, which is why he kept chaos a big, fat secret. He figured if he told them about the warp, they'd immediately start poking around and eventually be tempted by the ruinous powers. Joke's on him, though. Some of them still fell to chaos anyway. Turns out, when you make a bunch of overpowered demigods with unresolved trauma and no parental guidance, the ruinous powers don't have to try very hard to sell their free gifts with corruption package. And
Yep.
some of these Primarchs really bought into the cosmic sales pitch.
Come
In
to me.
particular, Horus Lupercal was the most ambitious fuck out there. He kicked off the Horus heresy because he figured he'd make a better space Jesus. Horus even talked some of his brothers into swapping sides with promises of better work benefits. But Magnus the Arrogant, he didn't need much sweet talking. But he wasn't always the bad guy. You see, early on he found out about Horus's scheme and decided to snitch to Big E. But, as usual, Magnus couldn't do anything right. Instead of a simple text message, he Kool-Aid manned straight through the webway, trashed the Golden Throne, which was basically the Emperor's space Lambo, and bailed when it all went to hell. He was so
Yep.
scared of being scolded that he ran like a bitch and never told
Yep.
Big E about the attempted coup.
Yep.
Naturally, Big E sent the Space Wolves to bring him back. Magnus, wallowing in guilt, ghosted everyone, shut off his comms, and decided his screw-up meant the Thousand Sons had to pay the ultimate price. With Magnus on airplane mode, Leman Russ took it as a kill-on-sight order after Horus hacked his iPhone. The result was Prospero burning, Magnus getting wrecked in a duel, and his soul shattered into pieces. Magnus thinks he's beyond redemption in the eyes of the Emperor and ultimately turns to chaos. Anyway, the rebellion is in full swing. Some Primarchs die, hundreds of thousands of Space Marines die, billions of humans die. The Emperor eventually kills his traitorous son Horus, but it comes at a huge cost. This is the 5th reason it sucked to be the Emperor. He tried his best to give his sons as many chances to succeed as possible, but the ungrateful bastards spat in his face. Some ended up getting murdered, some turned into demon princes, and some just disappeared altogether. All he got as a reward was to be the most overqualified life support patient, permanently welded to the Golden Throne. The 6th and final reason it sucked to be the Emperor is even though he was the most powerful human psyker, could see parts of the future and had legit plot armor, he still couldn't save his sons or humanity. At best, he stalled the impending doom of the human race at the costs of trillions of lives. You just can't win in the grim dark universe of 40K. That concludes today's episode.
Damn, love this. I actually quite love this. This is good. This is good. This was just fun. It was a nice, short, well done. The informations that you actually need for the most part, just to understand the basics, are there. It's nice, nicely done. Subscribe to Grimdark and leave him a like. Me too. But as it is, good night, Akona.